Hi, boys and girls. So today you're going to be working on comparing whole numbers, and you are going to be continuing to use probably these symbols that you have been looking at and using since you were in kindergarten. But definitely, when I was in school, we used the alligator, and we always said the alligator was wanting to chomp at the bigger number. So when the alligator is facing the toward the less than here, you see that it's facing away from the smaller number equal to and then the greater than symbol, and actually it's backwards down here, but that's okay. All right, so we're going to continue. We've worked on comparing numbers before, and the biggest thing to pay attention to is going from left to right, the highest value to the lowest value, and you don't need to look even necessarily at the whole number. You just need to look at the number that is in the middle. Okay, so I'm going to pull these over to the side here. Let's make sure that all these numbers or digits are pulled to the side. I don't want to mess that up. Okay, so what you're going to be doing here, this is pretty simple. Which number is greater? How do you know? And then explain. So this one already modeled for you, but that's okay. So when we look at the comparing numbers, we always start with the biggest place, or sorry, the highest place or the greatest place. And that in this case is the 10,000th place. So we know that the 4 and the 4 and the 10,000th place is the same, so we cannot use those digits. So then we move to the next digit, and we're looking at the next highest place. So we know there's a 6 in the 1,000th place here, and there's a 6 in the 1,000th place here. So we cannot use the 1,000th place. When the digits are the same in both places, we can't use that place. So let's look at the hundreds next. So the hundreds, there's a 0 here, and there's a 0 here, so we can't use the hundreds place. So therefore, just like it says here, we're going to look in the tens place, and there's a 3 here, and then a 4 here. So therefore, we know that 3 is less than 4, so we know without even having to look at the ones place, that number 46,043 is definitely greater, or sorry, 46,034 is less than 46,000. So we want the alligator to be opening up and chomping at that next. So it's the same for the next one. Again, it's already on here. It specifically tells you look in the thousands place. So if we look at the thousands place, we can see that the 9 is greater than the 8. So therefore, this is the greater than symbol that we're going to put there. Okay, so that's just some pretty basic stuff that we've definitely already learned. You definitely have been exposed to over the last few years, but I just wanted to kind of touch base on it, is that you remember that you're looking from left to right, which is actually how you read. So it should be pretty like used to going from left to right, and you look at which digit is different. So going from left to right, you find which digit is different, or sorry, what place is different, and then that's the number that you use in order to know how to compare it. So on this sheet, it says fill in the missing blanks to complete the number sentence. So this is something you're going to be asked to do. And we'll actually practice with this multiple times. So in filling in the missing blanks, you'll complete the number sentence. So here it has 25,001, and then we have nothing in the hundreds, sorry, tens place right now, and then a 7. And then we have 25,000 again, and then we have a digit that is different in the hundreds place. Tens place is there, and so on and so forth. So all we need to do is decide, okay, what's the largest place? So which one of these missing blanks is the largest? Is it the tens place or the hundreds place? Well, I know that the larger one is the hundreds place, so I'm going to highlight that just so to point that out. So this is actually the number I'm going to go ahead over here to the hundreds place and look. I know in order to make this number, to keep this number bigger, so see how we have the greater than symbol. We want to keep this number bigger. I know that this digit right here has to be smaller than this digit. Well, the only digit that's smaller than 1 is, you got it, a 0. Okay, so a 0 is what I'm going to put in that spot. So I'm going to go ahead and underline that again. Sorry, underline that again. All right, so you guys see that now? So it does not matter what I put here. And here's the reason why. I could put a 9 here. The reason why is because you always look at the place that is the highest. So we know the hundreds place is the highest, so therefore that's the only one that matters, and it doesn't matter what I put here now because I know that 1 is higher than 0, therefore this number has to be greater than, and then you just kind of step back and look at it for a second. Is this greater than this? 25,197 is greater than 25,038? Yes, it is. Doesn't matter that there's a 9 here because that would be the tens place. And we're not even looking at the tens place because the hundreds place is the first digit from left to right that's different. So let's practice it again on this one. So 34,000, 34,000, same thing, right? We pay attention to the symbol. We have it saying that this number needs to be less than this number. We look at, okay, well, here's the hundreds place over here, and guess what? It's missing the hundreds place over here. I'm going to go ahead and highlight that to point that out. So we want to figure out whatever digit is over here has to stay less than this digit. So I try to keep it simple for the most part, and I just do the next digit down. You could do any digit that is smaller than 8, and it would be just fine. I just always choose one smaller just to keep it simple. And then, like I said, in this space, it doesn't matter. I could literally put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9. It doesn't matter what I put there because this is the ones place and it's basically obsolete. Like it does not matter after you've determined the biggest place and making sure that that number sentence is true. And then I'm going to step back and I'm going to look. Is this number definitely smaller than this number? Yes, because the 34,000 is the same on both sides, but then when we look at the hundreds place, there's an 8 here and a 7 here, and we know that the 7 oh, sorry. It needs to be bigger than the 8. That's my bad. So it needs to be bigger than the 8. That's why you step back and look at it, guys, because I was sitting there walking through the whole thing and I didn't even realize it until I stepped back to look at it and think about the fact that this is actually saying this needs to be less than this, so it had to be smaller. So that's why that's super important to make sure you stop and look at the whole thing before you move on. All right, so lesson learned. So the big hang up is some people might look and see, okay, well, this is a 3 and this is a 9, and they're both the underlined spots. Okay, but that's not what you're worrying about. You're worrying about whether or not you can tell me which place is the biggest and whether or not that number sentence is true. All right, so 7 is the same, 7's the same. Then we have a 6 in the hundreds place, and the reason I know I'm highlighting it is because over here, 1,000ths place. Whew. 1,000ths place, there's a 6 over here in the 1,000ths place, and there's nothing over here in the 1,000ths place. I know that the 1,000ths place out of the two dashes or missing blanks is the bigger one, so that's the one that's going to matter. So therefore, it needs to be bigger than a 6. So it could be a 7, 8, or 9. I'm just going to choose an 8 randomly. It doesn't matter as long as it's bigger than the thousands place over here because it says greater than. And then I literally can put any number I want in the other one because it is a lower value than the 1,000ths place. So I'm just going to choose 7 because that's my favorite number. I'm going to underline it so you can see. All right, so that's how you do the missing number thing. You just make sure that whatever you put in those blanks, it doesn't matter. Some people might come up with different answers. That's the whole point, guys, is for you it's not just one right answer as long as the number sentence is true. These are called comparison sentences. As long as they are true and you're showing me that the number that the, again, alligator mouth or greater than symbol is facing is greater than the one that it's not, then you are all set. Okay? All right, and then for this one, write 3 numbers for which you would use the tens place to compare to 56,769. So in this case, the first thing you're going to want to do when it's saying to use the tens place or hundreds place or whatever is you need to highlight, circle, underline that place. Okay, so now I know that I'm going to use this. So here's the big rule, guys. A lot of people get way too complicated. All you have to do is not change anything that comes before that place that they're asking you to compare. So we can't change the 5, the 6, or the 7 because the big rule about comparing numbers is that you go from left to right. So if I were to change the 5 or 6 or 7, one of those would be the place that we compare. But that's not what they're asking you to do. They want you to only compare the tens place. So therefore, the tens place is the only digit that can be different, and then everything else can be left the same, or everything behind it can be changed. But everything in front of it has to be the same. And the reason for that is because if I were to change any of these, I wouldn't be using the tens place to compare because they would be first. Left to right, they would have a higher value. So I'm going to do the exact same thing here. I know that I have to keep the 5, the 6, so the 56,700 has to stay the same. And then I'm simply going to change the tens place and tack the ones place back on. So when it says to use a certain place to compare, just to keep it simple and easy, it just wants you to tell me a digit for that place. Okay, so again, I'm going to put down 56,700 because it cannot change. Then I'm going to put a different digit for the tens place because that's the one we're using to compare, and keep everything else the same. So hopefully that helped you out a little bit. So now let's look at the hundreds place. Write 3 numbers for which you would use the hundreds place. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to highlight, circle, underline, whatever I can do. The hundreds place, I know that the 39,000 cannot change there because you can't change anything before the place that you're using to compare, and therefore the hundreds place is the only number that's going to be different. So everything else I'm going to leave the same. So I'm going to highlight that just so you guys can see the difference there. All right, so now again, when it says to use a certain place to underline, when it says to use a certain place to compare, you cannot change anything before that place, and you simply use a different number in that place, and then everything else can either stay the same or change after it. But before it, you cannot change. I'm just trying to keep it simple though for you guys and only change the place it tells you to compare. So again, 39,000 cannot change because we're using the hundreds place. The only digit that should change is the hundreds place. So if it's the hundreds place that you're changing, then that's the place that if it's a hundreds place that you're comparing to, that's the only digit that should change. If it's the tens place that you're comparing to, that's the only place that should change. Okay, so there wraps up the lesson on greater than, less than, comparing whole numbers using missing information boxes, and comparing numbers to certain places. Thank you for listening all the way to the end. Don't forget to hit up that flip grid because there's another lesson in there on comparing whole numbers. Thanks, guys.